Welcome back to the program. We all watched President Muhammadu Buhari last week say he was more interested in Britain returning stolen monies than in an apology for calling us fantastically corrupt. Good thing is, efforts by the government to curb corruption are paying off. Transparency International released a corruption index showing the 10 most corrupt countries in the world, and Nigeria is not among the first 10. Nigeria is, however, 136 on the index, while Afghanistan, the other country described by the British Prime Minister as fantastically corrupt, sits at 166. But it was clear the Prime Minister's comment did not dissuade focus on the purpose of the meeting.
Leaders arrived in the UK capital with a goal to join in the conversation on anti-corruption. At least 50 representatives attended the summit, including the President of Nigeria and Afghanistan. The British Prime Minister would later announce that Britain will be forced to make public true ownership of foreign companies in a register of beneficial ownership information to be launched next month. France, the Netherlands, Nigeria and Afghanistan would also commit to launching public registers of true company ownership. Australia, New Zealand, Jordan, Indonesia, Ireland and Georgia would agree to take the initial steps towards making similar arrangements. Some of Britain's overseas territories and crown dependencies have also signed up to share their beneficial ownership registers with other countries.
Nigeria is by Sarah Chase,
Mr. Cameron made his pledge at the opening of the summit on Thursday.
We are making some real progress at this summit. There's a very clear declaration you can read where world leaders and countries are coming together with a very clear declaration. There's a communique of a whole set of actions. And crucially, there's country-by-country commitments that countries are making to tackle the issues of corruption that people will be able to check up on and report back on.
He put tackling corruption, including tax avoidance, at the heart of his agenda, while the U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry described corruption as a pandemic, saying the urgency of tackling corruption is real and failure to do so would lead to global unrest.
The extremism that we see in the world today comes to no small degree from the utter exasperation that people have with the sense that the system is rigged. And we see this anger manifesting itself in different forms in elections around the world, including ours. People are angry, and the anger is going to grow.
President Muhammadu Buhari, who had said the day before, in response to Mr. Cameron's comment that Nigeria was fantastically corrupt, by saying he was more interested in recovering stolen assets, proposed there be a strategic action plan to recover such assets.
Nigeria is calling on this summit to create an anti-corruption infrastructure and a strategic action plan that will include the monitoring, tracing, and facilitating the recovery of stolen funds and assets hidden in secret accounts abroad.
The register, which Mr. Cameron said would be the first of its kind in the world, will include companies that already own property in Britain, not just those wishing to buy. The aim is to expose individuals who hide behind shell companies with obscure names to own property, a particularly acute problem in London's luxury real estate sector, which has been hit by repeated scandals involving luxury homes owned by corrupt politicians from countries such as Nigeria or Libya. In another panel of discussion, Afghan President Ashraf Ghani said the fight against corruption was for the long haul and pleaded with Europe to do more to crack down on all those who profit from drug money flowing out of Afghanistan.
In order to engage in this type of action, anti-corruption should not be a fashion that is discarded with the next set of elections or the next set of changes. We have to have the know-how, the knowledge, and the determination that we are going to stay with this.
As the summit ended on Thursday, Mr. David Cameron reiterated a resolve to expose and drive out corruption.
Thank you very much.
To that security summit in Abuja, where the French President François Hollande said terrorism is feeding on all the weaknesses of the financial system. Attending that meeting were the presidents of Benin, Cameroon, Chad, and the Niger Republic, and other leaders in the region. A meeting is aimed at limiting the strength of Boko Haram. The meeting on Saturday was preceded by bilateral talks between French President François Hollande and President Muhammadu Buhari, which took place behind closed doors. The French president was instrumental to putting together the first meeting on Boko Haram in Paris on May 17, 2014. That meeting discussed better cooperation between regional governments, information sharing, and a dedication towards military deployment in fighting the insurgency.
You may sit down.
The second meeting, which held on Saturday, was hosted by President Muhammadu Buhari. In addition to the presidents of Cameroon, Niger Republic, Chad, and Benin Republic, representatives from the United States, Britain, Equatorial Guinea, the European Union, ECOWAS, the Economic Community of Central African States, and the Gulf of Guinea Commission attended. Speaking to journalists after his meeting with President Hollande, President Buhari said the challenge of confronting the Northeast now is how to restore basic social amenities in the region. He also said that the government has conducted a comprehensive survey on the challenge of infrastructure there, and that the government will soon begin to empower people of the region.
Our main problem now is rehabilitation. Rehabilitation of infrastructure destroyed, educational, health, some bridges blown, and then, of course, the infrastructure in terms of townships and villages that has been destroyed. That we have made a comprehensive survey, and very soon we'll start to repair them. And then I talked about IDPs, that's internally displaced persons. I mentioned that more than 60% of them are women and children. And more than 60% of the children are orphan. They don't even know who their parents are or where they come from. This is a pathetic situation, and this is one of the major problems we have to face for some time in this country.
At the summit on Saturday, Commander of the Multinational Joint Task Force, Major General Lamidi Adeosun, called on member states to consolidate on the gains made against the insurgents by attending to the humanitarian needs of those displaced by the insurgency. He also advised on the need for more equipment and increasing the allowances of troops.
The Multinational Joint Task Force lift capability needs to be enhanced and should be enhanced by troop contributing countries. Mine and improvised explosive devices detection and destruction equipment and capability should be enhanced across the sectors. Adequate troop sustenance in terms of operation allowance, ration, and fast-moving medical supplies should be increased.
Executive Secretary of the Lake Chad Basin Commission also appealed to member states to double their efforts so that the region will not only win the war against the insurgents, but ensure lasting peace in the region.
The objective is to speedily facilitate the rehabilitation of communities and the return of refugees, including IDPs, and specifically to aid their early return to their homes. Despite the huge feat by our military and the security agencies, there is need for more sustained efforts and concerted actions to ensure that we do not only win the war.
At the close of the summit, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Jeffrey Onyema, presented recommendations from the series of security experts meetings held since Thursday. The document recommends that member states double their efforts for the funding of troops and ensure the release of the Chibok girls.
After exhaustive deliberations, the military security subgroup recommended the underlisted. Addressing the immediate operational challenges of the Multinational Joint Task Force in the areas of logistics, equipment, and troops' welfare, amongst others, to enhance operational efficiency. Intensifying efforts to locate and ensure the release and safe return of the Chibok schoolgirls and all other captives.
The UK Foreign Minister Philip Hammond and the US Deputy Secretary of State Anthony Blinken added their pleas to the mix by asking governments in the region to work at stabilizing lives of returnees in the liberated communities.
Of course, our focus must be not only on defeating the extremists, but also on helping their victims.
The United States is deeply committed to supporting this fight, a fight against a group that has turned young children into suicide bombers. We are determined to defeat their campaign of murder, enslavement, and destruction. We have to start by liberating communities from Boko Haram, but that's not enough. We then have to stabilize those communities so that people can come home.
President Muhammadu Buhari reiterated his administration's commitment to rid the last vestige of Boko Haram from the region and ensure the safe return of the girls, as did all the presidents present. Coming up after the break, Mr. Kayode Akomolafe joins us to discuss progress made in the fight against corruption and the Boko Haram insurgency. To stay with us.